What do you think players think of the Kyler Murray situation? Because it's one thing for us to have something to say about it. You guys are
Yeah.
the guys who sign these contracts. You're going to be in the locker room with the quarterback. What do you think the feeling is with that, the language in a contract with Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think for those guys in that locker room, there might be guys in the locker room that don't like Kyler, and maybe they think he's lazy or doesn't do this or doesn't do that. There's guys in that locker room, which I would assume majority of that locker room, where they probably love him. And I don't think this was probably news to anyone. I think it's probably more shocking that it's in the news and now it's a distraction almost in a sense. I think if I was in a locker room, that's what I would be most annoyed by as the start of training camps rolling around. I may be a guy who just signed or a guy that's kind of on the bubble. I'm trying to make the team and I may be a veteran. I'm getting interviewed and I keep having to answer questions about Kyler Murray's contract, a guy who's making $250 million, who's obviously performed well enough that the team decided to pay him despite of his amount of film watched or anything like that. So I think within a locker room, you understand that, hey, we may all be treated fairly, but we're not all going to be treated the same. I played with guys throughout my career who could go out all week, still show up for practice every single day, and perform well on Sundays. Maybe I can knock them. I think the biggest thing is for them is going to be trying to figure out how to get Kyler Murray to perform better down the stretch of the season for himself and the Arizona
But
Cardinals.
were you aware on the teams you were on how much time the quarterback was putting in?
No, never aware. I think you always knew that quarterbacks were coming in early on Mondays, there all day for the most part on Tuesdays as the install was going in. Because, I mean, let's face it, mentally, that's probably the hardest position on the football field.
Yeah, I'm wondering how he handles this because it has the potential to be embarrassing because they're saying, look, you're not putting in the time, maybe, or you're lazy.
Yeah, and
Right?
it has to be annoying. And I think, like I think you said, that's part of the reason maybe they did it. Maybe they thought it would reflect bad on him, and he'd now all of a sudden start to do more. But I mean, he could literally go home, turn on the video games, grab his iPad, open up the film, hit play, leave it over there, let it play for an hour while he's playing Call of Duty. So to me,
Mm.
it's more of a ploy within the media to hold him accountable for the rest of the interested people in the world, opposed to him actually watching film. And who knows how much time does he spend in the building? Maybe he watches all of his film inside the building and he wants some me time when he kicks back in his probably beautiful Arizona home.
Well, I understand that. And you bring up a great point. I think there's not going to be somebody there at home monitoring him. If they're going to go, hey, we're watching what you're watching on your iPad. All right, click. I'm watching, and you're playing World of Warcraft. But I wonder, though, how much of this is on Cliff Kingsbury? He's the head coach. He's a former quarterback. Don't you usually have a veteran who helps the younger quarterback understand how to prepare for an opponent week in and week out? That's what I mean. I'm kind of baffled by this.
I mean, we talk about it throughout the NFL the whole time I was playing in the league, veteran leadership and how important it is. I can look back. I had Cortland Finnegan, Chris Hope. Those were guys that taught me how to be a pro. There's one thing to have a guy that say, hey, for Kyler, hey, when this thing opens up, you're going to have a hot read and you're going to hit your X receiver backside. But it's another thing having a guy in a meeting room day in and day out of showing you what it's like to prepare for a game. And I think it does fall on the head coach of being able to make sure, hey, each and every week he's prepared. And he's already said that he's a guy that more goes off his cognitive skills. He doesn't need to watch a ton of film. We talked about on the show today, Michael Vick at one point said early on in his career, like he didn't really see the significance. Said he'd get the little DVDs and just throw them in the back of the car. And obviously before he got into trouble with everything, Michael Vick, an electric player who was having a really good career. So I think there's levels to it. Does Kyler want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Does he want to win the championship? Those are the things that we'll see over time, how much work he's willing to put in to see how high he wants to take it.
And sometimes you're so gifted that you haven't had to put in the time. It's just natural.
Exactly.
But that's why I keep bringing up Michael Vick. Vick said if I put in the time, I'd probably have a Super Bowl ring. This is coming from Vick, who might be the most talented player who's ever played that position. You played against Kyler Murray. What was the game plan? I think 2020, you guys played against him.
Yeah, we wanted to keep him inside the pocket. That was the biggest thing when we were going against him. We wanted to force him, obviously a smaller quarterback, but extremely electric. When he got out on the edge and he had the ability to make guys miss, to be able to make plays in space and just kind of be able to be creative in the moment. He makes it very challenging for defense. So for us, we wanted to keep him bottled in and keep him in the pocket and then be able to disguise and mix up our looks. And he's going to continue to see a lot of that. When you're as good as he is on his feet, teams aren't going to want to let you beat them that way. So they're going to try to force you to stay in the pocket and be able to disguise things. For any young quarterback, that's the hardest thing of being able to read those coverages.